Welcome back, everybody, to the first episode of Leo's Touch podcast. I'm super excited to be doing this episode. You might be thinking to yourself right now, wait, this is his first episode? Didn't he do little snippets on Instagram before? Yes, I did, but to be honest with you, at that moment, that isn't really relevant anymore. The topic that I was discussing, kind of the more or less future that I was talking about with Leo's Touch isn't relevant anymore. So kind of rebranded things, kind of found a new direction, moving in different areas. So calling this one the first episode of Leo's Touch, mostly because this is my first episode with a guest too as well, what I'm really excited about. So today's guest is a good friend of mine. We met earlier this year. We both worked together for a little bit, and then we started hanging out, finding out a little bit more about each other, and now we're here. Now we're going to be on the show talking a little bit about change and what that looks like from a world point of view, what that looks like from a personal point of view, and we're also going to be talking about his business and what he's doing and how his world is changing right now and kind of the path that he's on and where he's going in the future too as well. So without further ado, my man, Luke Venter, say what's up to the people.
Am I allowed to cuss? No? What's
no.
up, everybody? I'll try and keep the cussing down since it's I don't know.
Good stuff, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I appreciate you being the first guest on the show, too, as well.
Yeah, of course.
That's dope. So, kind of starting things off, one of the things, and I think this is an interesting question, this is something I actually asked you earlier before. We met in the park, actually, just behind my apartment. And it was like early on in quarantine. I asked you a question. Yeah, I asked you a question. That question was, what was the most meaningful thing to you at that time, right? Like that was something for me that kind of question resonates in a way that you really start to figure out what matters to somebody. And at the moment, at that time, you know, I'm interested and curious to know how that's changed. And if you don't,
what was my answer then? I dead ass forget.
So, kind of what you said was like, obviously, you know, what mattered the most to you at that moment was your girlfriend, your living situation, kind of keeping your peace, and also too, I mean, we were like literally on the brink of a pandemic.
Yeah.
No idea. Right?
I was like, I remember back then I was also like, yo, shit's about to like go down. I was expecting like riots like in the States. So I was just like, okay, you know, it's about to go down.
Yeah. So, I mean, like your answer was still like solidified, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, Luke's still doing okay. We're not, nobody's.
Oh, I always pretend as though I know what I'm talking about, bro. Like, everything's confident.
But it was also directed towards your music.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about, you know, wanting to produce, wanting to, you know, cultivate a lot of people, help people too as well. We talked about some like community work that you want to do because of your past things that you've experienced, and I think that alludes a lot to today's topic too as well.
No, definitely.
So now, a couple months later, right, things have happened. Your life has definitely changed, right? You've decided to go down a different path or pursue your passion, your dream.
Yeah.
So now tell me, what's the most meaningful thing to Luke today?
All right, so I guess like in retrospect to that now is it's like same answer but different way of doing it. You know, it's more so like, oh, like I love music and that's like what I want to do, but I can't right now. But then COVID hit and I was just like, okay, like I got a lot of time on my hands and like, you know, watching TV, playing video games, getting stoned all day. I got stoned every day, but like, you know, just watching TV and wasting my time away, I'm like, that's a no-go anymore, you know? Yeah. So then I started doing a lot of meditation, so that was a big thing that changed, was like doing much more like self-reflection, focusing on like things that need improvement on self, understanding self better, understanding self within the world better. So just everything regarding that and like everything you can get out of meditation is what I started to sort of go into. And a lot of revelations happened for me with that. The biggest change was like, I'm no longer going to work a job to pursue what I want to do. The biggest shift in focus was I'm going to live a lifestyle to make my money, not make my money to live a lifestyle. Like, I don't think, you know, like that's something that enough people really focus on. Like, how are you living your life? What is your lifestyle? And how's that reflecting to your happiness? And I was like, this isn't making me happy. So I decided to like, I'm not gonna do personal training no more, right? Like, passionate about fitness, but like that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Right. Dude, I love that. And this is why I have you on the show.
Yeah.
Right? This is literally why you're the first person to come on the show, because, I mean, that answer really just says it all. You know, I love that. From what you said to me a couple months ago to what you just said to me now, and that change and that development is so beautiful, because it's like discovering oneself through those things that you have done and through your disciplines.
That was the point
I
was doing.
That's like, so now with that being the center, how do you carry that with you each and every day into what you're doing? So to give people a little bit of an idea of what Luke does, just from an outside point of view, he's a rapper, songwriter, producer. You're a YouTuber now too as well.
Kind of, sort of, get my feet wet in there, starting it up bit by bit.
You've taken that step to now put yourself out there even more on so many different platforms.
Yeah.
So now with everything that you just said about going through that meditative state and really finding yourself and centering yourself instead of a job, trying to create a job and then have a lifestyle through that job, creating that lifestyle and making that, what ultimately how you live.
Yeah, so like the big difference is basically it's shifting how you pursue your happiness. So I find people pursue their happiness through something, so through their job in order to go do X, whatever X is for them. I went, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just do X and then pray to God I make money off of it. So it's like, because even if I fail, like I'm still going to be happy at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So like to kind of like circle around like how that's sort of now impacted what I do, how I'm going to do that is talk more in depth about what I'm actually doing and how that kind of reflects out. So like, layman's terms, I'm just a creator.
Right.
I'm just out here because I enjoy making stuff. I enjoy drawing for some periods of time, and then I'll hate it for like months. So it's like I'm just trying to do things that bring me, genuine joy,
right,
without actually needing to get anything back from that, and focusing on the things that I'm doing for the sake of like why I did them. So a big change in like music for me was I was doing music to like get famous, to get rich, to like reap the spoils.
Yes. Yeah.
Now I'm like, nah, I'm making music because like this is what I do. This is like how I resonate. My mom passed away. She wanted me to become a musician. We shared music. Music was very prevalent in my childhood, and like it influenced me like a lot. So like this is something I do because it's a core of who I am, not for the things I can get out of it. So there's joy in both the victory and the defeats now.
Yeah.
So that was a big shift. To like I'm doing the YouTube to just sort of put on a face and a show, and have like a stage and sort of have an outlet to do all the other creative things I want to do. Something I'm focusing on, that a project that I'm in the beginning stages of mapping out. Is doing like album reviews and artist reviews.
Right.
So
we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, so like the first one I'm gonna do is like off like one of my biggest idols from childhood is like Eminem. Right. So like you're gonna go like talk about that artist, how he has made success, the numbers he made, what led him into music, just all that information that's like kind of prevalent. So the first episode is like understanding the artist, their first projects or projects that didn't get a lot of attention, and then the second episode will be their first big project, and then like so on and so forth. So like trying to have more like continuity with the things that I'm putting out.
Right.
I'm also just big focus on feeding other artists, because it's too exhausting to just make music by myself all the time. So I'm like, hey, in order for me to continue to make money off music, which is something I love, I've started to now make beats so I can sell those, to sell studio time so people can come in. And like I find like, and the reason I've done that is because I found and heard from a lot of people who've used studios, especially in Winnipeg, the guy behind the fucking desk is just sitting there like hitting the space bar, bro. He's not doing nothing for you. And like if you have like a dead object behind the desk, you're gonna feel awkward behind the mic. You're not gonna find your groove.
Like, was that good?
Like hey, bro, like what was that? And they go like, oh, it's good. You're like, well, like, bro, saying good to everything does me no good. Like I'm trying to make it good. So like I try and also bring like an authenticity where it's like, if I don't think it's good, I'm gonna give you an honest answer.
And that is something that I absolutely love about you.
Yeah.
Like that's why, like if I'm going through some shit, I'm coming to you. Like sometimes if I even don't come to you, our paths cross anyways, and all of a sudden you're dropping some wisdom on me.
I find ways to give people the wisdom they need. Trust.
Definitely. So I love how you've talked about now talking about, instead of being this solo artist, this guy who just does everything by himself, for himself, these things, not saying more of like a selfish point of view, but
Oh, it
more
was. That's what it was.
but
I was
more
self-centered
now-
and self-focused.
Right.
And that was the problem.
Yeah.
So like the change that needed to happen is to realize that I'm not the most important, thing around. I'm not even the most important person or thing to myself. I shouldn't be, because if you are the most important thing to yourself, you're not paying attention to anything else around you. How can you possibly live in the moment? Which was another thing that we had, Yeah, how can you possibly live in a moment if you're like me,
Exactly.
because you are then a world unto yourself.
Yeah.
You're not a part of the world around you. So like that was that shift. It's like I am not, the be all and end all. I am not the I am. It's like I am here to serve in whatever way,
I love that. I love that. And that's given me so many things to kind of build off of, and like, you're of a service mindset, you know, and as a personal trainer, we were both personal trainers, and I still am right now, and like,
I am in spirit, bro.
You are in spirit 100%, but like, to be a personal trainer, you have to have a service mindset.
Yeah, bro.
Right? But now what you're talking about, you still have that service mindset, but now you're in a different world, right? Now you're doing what you love, but you still have that service mindset. I think that's a beautiful thing, is like, people focus so much on like, what can I get out of this?
Yeah.
How much benefit can I reap from this situation or from this person or whatever have you? And I think when you figure out that what you get from a selfish standpoint, like what benefits the tangible things that you can actually reap from those situations are minuscule compared to the benefits of what you can reap by actually just helping people, serving people, like you're doing with the studio, like you're doing with giving like these guys positive feedback, not even positive sometimes,
bro. And it's like a cheaper studio time, bro. $35. I'm doing a membership, like, and I was like, let me sorry to cut you off, but like it's like everything's positioned so like kind of the onus is on you, but like I'm here at your disposal when you need it. I was talking to one of the members at the gym we work at, right? He was actually a past football coach of mine, and like he and I have a good relationship, and he runs his own businesses, and he and I were chatting about that, and we are talking, and like, big blessing, another big shift that's actually happened for me is like being able to focus and see the blessings that God gives me when they actually happen, and then actually taking a moment to thank Him for that, instead of just being, oh, Lord, that was nice, like taking that like 5 seconds to be like, thank you, like even taking a moment to like get on your knees sometimes and be like, yo, that was a big blessing, thank you.
I love that.
Like learning to be humble, humble with self, like being able to get on your knees on like a quiet time and like say thank you, because like that information I got there was mind changing, because every other studio, what they do is they'll be like K95 whatever for an hour, right? I'm going K95 for 4 hours over a month, and every month that clocks over your membership, then like if you get 4 hours in a month, you pay me $95, right? If you don't use those 4 hours that month, tough titties, bro. You're not carrying it over to the next.
It's just like people who buy gym memberships and never use it.
Exactly. It's the same thing. Like, you need to think, this is on you. I'm here to help you and get you there, but if you don't come through the door, you're not my problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm giving you the service, but I'm not going to hound you for it. And, like, that's what I find myself doing right now in the beginning stages of my studio, is, like, chasing people.
Right.
So now that I'm switching that, like, that's, like, okay, cool. Like, I'm, like, a lot less stressed about finding clients. And it's more so just like like when they come, because like more prep time to like kind of get everything ready for when the people show up.
Dude, that's wicked. I love that. Now, let's talk a little bit about your music, right? Talking about other people's music and how you're helping them is great. We'll touch a little bit more on that if time allows us. But, because when you started rapping, when did that like really become a thing to you? Because you talked a little bit about how you and your mom had music as something that brought you two together. When was it when you decided to start rapping, and what was that like? So
that was weird. See, like, I was listening to like Eminem at 9. I got the Eminem Slim Shady LP at like that young. My mom got me like Ludacris. I forget what album. I think. So
was your mom a little bit of a G? Like,
my mom was a real G, bro. Bro, like, let me just put it this way. Both my parents knew how to throw down when it came down to it, right? Like, they were real people, 100%. Like, they were, like, I got my pass with them, but at the same time, like, they were down to earth. So, like, my mom, she got me, like, Ludacris Red Light District.
All right.
At, like, 7, too. So, it was like, I was exposed to, like, hip-hop rap at a young age. So I was like, and I just loved that, like, compared to the other music that I was surrounded by, because like when we were growing up, like a big thing was like punk rock, and I was listening to like, you know, Tupac, Biggie, Eminem, you know, Ludacris, you know, 50 Cent, you know, people like that, and I was like, okay, cool, this is fun. So I then started like rapping for fun, you know, just copying the people I was listening to at a young age. But it wasn't until after my mom passed away and like me moving into high school that I started to like write my own stuff and like do anything along those lines. And it was a very slow process at first.
I believe it, yeah.
Very like, before it was just like kind of screwing around, be like, oh, I'm a rapper now. Like for me, it's like I title changed myself to not be like a fanboy, to be like, no, I'm my own thing.
Yeah.
And then like I did, like, if people know it, like I don't know, it's probably still out there. If you could probably find it. It's my first project was what's it called? This EP or album I did called Less Monsters, More Miracles. It was awful.
Less Monsters, More Miracles.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Less Monsters, More Miracles.
Bro, it got like a couple hundred like listens and stuff.
All right.
There was a banger or two, and like there was another old song that I chopped off of Oceans.
Okay.
That Christian song. My buddy, you know, fixed the sample for that, and we made another song. So like my first songs were very like raw and angry.
Yeah.
And then since like breaking apart from my you know, my once was friend and like my music partner at the time, I've, you know, changed how I approach music to be like kind of more. Before it was very personal, and I got all that personal stuff I needed to sort of outlet that I was seeking out of music.
Right.
And now it's more so like, hey, I'm an artist now. Like, what kind of pictures do I want to paint? What sort of vision do I want to create? What sort of artist do I want to be seen as? And how can I tie that to the other things that I'm doing? So like the music I make is kind of like a reflection, and like I try and always give these foods for thoughts, but very subtly through my music, just like, you know,
like if you're actually paying attention to the lyrics,
if you're actually like
you'll sit
really
with it for a
listening,
while
you're gonna
after the
like, the whole point of it is to like kind of plant seeds without you even realizing, and making you like think different thoughts. You know, like giving you like some stuff to think about. Like one of my most recent songs I just finished was I call it Crazy White Boy, and it's just a really edgy.
Oh yeah, I heard a little bit of it. Yeah.
But like the whole point of that song was to just be like, you know, like I'm Saint Luther. You know, like I preach the gospel and like I'm all about that stuff. But it's just like he also makes a song like this. So like, what is he? I'm like, exactly.
You just don't know. They just can't pinpoint.
No, I know, you know, but it's for other people to kind of make up their mind, because like, you know, like I like to, like the nickname my buddy gave me is like Saint Luther the Sinner, you know, like all saints are sinners, bro. And that was like a big realization I came to. Like I can chase perfection, and that's what I've been doing my whole life, but I'm never going to get it. So like coming to terms with my imperfections, but you know, and being okay with them, that's sort of like my rapper persona, is like an attempted but always failure of the, you know, pursuit of perfection. You know?
Yeah. I love that, man. That's cool. So with that, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Luke's past, and also then the biggest topic of all, the change aspect of what him and I are personally going through, things that we've discovered now in this new world that we're living in, and how the world is even rapidly changing today and tomorrow and the next day, and kind of ciphering through some of the things that may be pressuring you in your life, things that you're going through. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back, you guys. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining me for the first episode of Leo's Touch, first official episode, and 2 with our guest Luke, and how he's talking about and how we're talking about change, not only in our lives but in other people's lives, that we're being of service to them, and kind of Luke's passion in his business and what he's doing for other people. So now, building upon what we talked about before, is the overarching topic, change, right? And like I just said, like, you know, everybody's talking about change. Right, it's kind of a cliche thing to talk about now. It's like, yeah, no shit, bro. Like, things are changing. So that's why I finished off with wanting to talk about your past. Right, and how that has helped you change and grow and develop to who you are today, and forevermore from that point, and how, you know, what happened to you, because you're not from here, right? What happened to you where you came from, and what happened within your family. And those relationships, and how that resulted in what it did, and then how it's brought you here today, and kind of that journey. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that with us.
Yeah, for sure. So like, it's a long, complicated story, so I'm gonna try and keep it to the highlights. I might talk for a little bit here. So like originally I'm from South Africa, as you know, but the viewers obviously don't. I was born in Port Elizabeth, 1998. April 24th. Motherfucking name. Day.
The plug, the birthday plug.
yeah. But yeah, so I was born out there. My bio dad left me before I even was born, so I've never even met the man yet. Probably never will. Don't know. That might change.
You're listening.
But yeah, no, like for some people that know a little bit about South Africa, they think that like all white people got it real good out there. Not all of them. Not me, at least. I grew up in one of the really, really poor, or the time that I did grow up there, really, really poor areas. Me and my mom like stayed in like a 1-bedroom flat, and like we had cockroaches in there. Like there were cockroaches in like my crib and her bed and shit. Like it was like that bad. I almost died as an infant. I got really, really sick. Like healthcare is not like it is out here, obviously.
Right.
My mom was like working full time. She got sick, and she met my dad, and they got together. They got married, and he adopted me. And then what ended up actually making me move to Canada is the fact that my uncle got shot in the back of the head for the equivalent of 100 Canadian dollars. So like,
Seriously.
Yeah, man, it's a war zone out there for real. Like,
he got shot in the back of the head in South Africa.
In South Africa, at the back of his own gas station for 100 Canadian bones, bro. Like, yeah.
So that put things into perspective for sure.
I mean, just knowing that puts things into perspective of like where I actually come from.
Yeah.
Like. So like there was that, and then like we moved to Vancouver first, and then that was okay. We stayed with like my mom's side of the family because I was born with dual citizenship right away.
So your mom is Canadian.
My mom was born here in Canada and then grew up out there, so she was born with both, and then I was born with both.
Right.
So yeah, that was like that made it easy for us to move here at least. So we stayed there. My dad then got a job here in Winnipeg, and then we moved. So like moving, like a lot of that I don't really know much of, but like it was a lot of change and like, shifts of like everything at a very young age.
Right.
Then, my parents had my brother, and when I was like 6, but at that time, both my dad especially developed a drinking problem, and a pretty bad one at that. So my parents and like my home life became very aggressive and very abusive, and I became kind of like the lightning rod to absorb a lot of that.
Right.
I remember at like 5 years old, I was like sitting trying to mediate between like 5, 6, 7 years old, mediating, my 2 adult parents in like, relationship ending, arguments, where they're both like drunk. I remember having to, feed my brother these like little sausages was like the only thing he'd eat, and like I'd make them and cook them and then feed him, and then
at 6 years old,
like this is when he was like 1, so like it's like 7, 6, 7, and then like 8 to like 9.
Yeah.
So like I was a child like being an adult, so like I had to gain perspective of life, and like
And you had no idea. You were just
I had no idea what was
making this
going
shit up on
like
the spot.
I have very little memory of my childhood. It was like that. That intense, like spiritualistic things aside that was happening to me at that time, like for just like earthly things that was happening, like a lot of things was going down. Like my dad became very abusive towards my mom, but especially towards me. He would come home, drunk and angry, and just like punch me and like knock me out and shit like that. Like that's what I was going through. And then school became very aggressive. Like I'm a loud person now. When I was younger, I was way worse. I was dealing with ADHD and like ODD, and like regardless of whether or not you believe in those things, like my time in school and my time at home was rough. Always. I was running into consistent.
What school did you go to?
I went to like my elementary school was Belmont. Then I went to HC Avery for middle school.
Okay.
And then Maples for high school.
Okay.
High school.
So North End still. Of the city,
yeah, bro. North End. I'm a North End Goonie, bro.
Okay.
Like that's.
Okay.
I'm a hood rat. Like that. Like that's what's up. Like my friends growing up are like kids that would like get into consistent trouble. We'd go like tag cars, break into stuff, break stuff, just go do dumb stuff.
Right.
Always, Like I remember like many times I'd run from the cops. Never been caught, but like got fast feet for a fat boy back then. Like, but yeah, like just like a wild life is what like I kind of come from, just like war zone 24/7, like survival.
Yeah.
12 years old, I have to, like at that point my parents had like both of them like full blown alcoholism. My dad was in and out of like attempted recovery. My mom was just drinking consistently. My mom had a lot of like health problems too, complicating that. So often
Did they work? Like, did they?
yeah, so my mom was worked when my brother was very little, at first, and then she became a housewife, and then my dad worked full time. So my dad was in and out, and my mom was always home. But what ended up happening, like as things progressed, is like my dad would work, and then my dad left the house, and then it was just us four. But then my mom would start AWOLing to go drink and go do stuff. So I'd be left at like, her friends' places, but her friends were like drug addicts or like alcoholics themselves. And like I was living in like the North End, so like most of the places I'd be left at with my brother were like, like trap houses. So
Holy
like I was
fuck,
like watching like, adults like nod out OD in front of me, like crazy stuff, I was
Like, how did you perceive that as a kid? Like
you don't perceive that as a kid. Like you don't know what's really going on until like
you're just like, they fell asleep
I'm
fast.
just like, but like I had an idea of what was going on.
Right,
Like,
because you couldn't have been oblivious, like, especially, being
I was
12 years
oblivious
old.
for a while, and then like at like 10 things started to click, and I'm
Okay.
like, this is what's going on. So then at 12 I actually called CFS myself, and then was like, hey, like
Wow.
you need to remove my brother and I from the situation, like in my house, like calling CFS and being like, voila,
Wow.
like my name's Luke, I'm 12, like my brother's 6, and like we're not in a safe home. And they're like, okay. So then like we got apprehended.
Because I guess you wouldn't have had, like, family coming in and
There's
out,
no
right?
family. It was just us. It was my family. So
Yeah.
everything that was happening like stayed in house.
Like, no
nobody,
aunts, no uncles, no grandparents.
nothing,
like,
nothing. Because they were overseas. They're abroad. They're not
Yeah.
here. So like, it was very much so like being left on my own. I was like, my mom locked me out of the house at like 10, 11, and I was homeless for like a week in like October, November. Like surviving.
At 10 years old.
10, yeah, like 9, 10, or like even 11. I forget exactly. Like it's hard. Like it's all like a blur.
Yeah.
But then my mom, her alcoholism eventually she drank so much that it just like destroyed her system. Because
Right.
my mom had stomach cancer after she had me. So they removed her stomach, but they ripped her spleen during the surgery. So my mom was consistently sick with like pneumonia, as I was saying before. And then just all the drinking like took its toll on her. The official story that I've gotten, and I'm not 100% sure if I believe it, I have to have that conversation with my dad still, is that she fell, broke her shoulder, and then got a surgery, and then that like where the surgery happened got infected, and then that just kind of took over. Like my mom just didn't have enough strength to like fight it. After my mom died, I was living with moved back in with my dad, and my dad was then recovered, but like the hostility between us was still very much present. So
Because
me
at
and my
that
dad,
moment, you're probably just like,
well, not even that. It's just like I was, I like, for lack of a better word, I grew up an animal. Like I knew, like, you look at me funny, you get hurt. You say some shit, you get hurt. Like respect is earned, and I still live by that. You want my respect, you fucking garner my respect. I don't just toss that out freely, right? We can be buddies, but if you are somebody that I like respect, you're gonna know the difference. If it's somebody that I just like, I vibe with you, But like, 100%. My dad had not earned my respect. So like he'd tell me to like, not he'd tell me to do stuff and I'd be no, but he'd bark at me and I'd be like, I don't know who you think you talking to. Right. So like then like from that point on, like I was bouncing from group homes. Like even then there's like a whole story by itself, but like spent a lot of time in group homes, moved back in with my dad. Me and my dad are fighting, but I'm making sure my brother is not in the middle of it. So like that was going on. So like my dad's and I like would throw down. Like throw down, like boxing ring type shit, you know, like go at it. Like, and then eventually got to a point where my dad slapped me in the face 3 times. I was like, hey, like you touch me again, you're going to the hospital in a body bag, or the hospital in a stretcher, or the morgue in a body bag. Like I'm done. Like don't touch me. He then tried to like get like handsy with me when I had a friend over, and I threw him across the room. I'm like, you ready to go? And like he's like, get upstairs. So like that's like the past I come from, along with growing up with like, drug addicts and, 2, alcoholics. I grew up with, people who's like sold drugs, hard drugs too. Like I was seeing like coke at like, 9 years old. I saw coke. I was like seeing people like do like needles. Like, so like, I didn't know if they're doing heroin or whatever the fuck it was, so like, I was very like aware of like how like ugly the world was at a young age,
Yeah.
and like having to grow up in like school with all that stuff happening. I'm a very like aggressive kid, so I was
Right.
like suspended consistently. So through that time, I had to like teach myself self-control, bring in, you know, the anger and the rage that I would always feel, you know, like justifiably, straight up. Like I had no childhood.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised by my parents. I raised myself. So like I'm a self-made everything. So like
Yeah.
as you're saying, like when people like critique my music or critique me, I take that personally because like
Yeah.
I am my own man. I give very little credit to outside sources for like creating the person that I am today. So like yeah, like I just come from, you know, like the shit you hear about in rap stories basically, you know,
Yeah.
like, but like I don't touch on that too much because I don't remember enough of it to
Yeah.
really like accurately depict what I went through. It's all like third person stuff. I hear this from too, to be
Right.
like, are you aware you were like here at this point in time? I was like, damn, no shit, damn, tell me about what happened to me back
Yes.
then,
Yeah.
you know.
You know, and I think that's interesting because, like, the first time that we ever talked about that was, you know, like, it was so interesting to me, you know, to hear that side of life, right? Like, obviously, you hear about it, you know about it, but I never was around people that actually, like, happened to or that influenced their lives, or that impacted their lives in the way that it has yours.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I was so touched by that, by your story and by, you know, your experiences that you've been through, because you're so kind, right? You're so loving. You're so like, you have so much energy.
I wasn't always that way.
And I believe it. But the fact is, again, you've been able to change. You've been able to grow. You've been able to see the worst, the darkest parts of probably what life has to show in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
You know, to be totally bitter towards everybody.
Yeah.
But you're not, you know, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think, you know, it's something to be, it's a staple point for people to look at, especially when they get to know you as an artist and who you are as a person. And that's what I'm really excited for.
Yeah.
Right. In your journey, in your business, and the people and the kids who you're working with.
Yeah,
right.
like
and
I worked for CFS after I left.
Really?
After I
Okay.
graduated for 4 years, because like I just like the things that like these kids go through, like you'd never know, you know. Like for me and like the system, like you're dealing with random faces showing up, like employees basically. Like
Right.
imagine like showing up at like, you know, a gym or to a coffee shop, and the random faces you see like circulating through your like place of like your coffee shop even.
Yeah.
Like you may know like one or two of the people that work there.
Yeah.
Now imagine living there and seeing like all of these different employees come in and come out. And to them, it's a job. So you don't have a parent, you don't have like an adult figure. You have people that kind of sort of care, but most of them are there for the check because
Yeah.
like CFS pays like decent.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so like growing up in like that environment, like like I had to teach myself what it was like to show, you know, compassion, to show empathy, to care about another human being. Because like, you know, my parents loved me. You know, they didn't just do me wrong, but like they didn't teach me what it was like to have a healthy relationship of compassion and understanding without like all of this like excess like abuse and baggage with it.
Right.
So like becoming a man was for me kind of happened primarily in, you know, high school, where like my dad kicked me out, I think officially at like 15. I haven't been back, and like even moving back I was in and out and in and out. Like there's temporary group homes
Yeah.
that I'd stay in, like they're supposed to be 3 days, I'd be there like a month. You know, like in group homes I've seen people get like chopped up, like the homies I was chilling with and living with, like we went and like I didn't do nothing but like seeing people like get hacked
Right,
up,
right.
seeing people get run down, you know, like being present for, you know, like bad drug deals where like homies pull up to like, you know, steal a stash or take the money or like, you know, screw over the person who's like selling it, bro. Like that was the things I was seeing. So like for me, like coming into high school is like, hey, I can't be getting suspended no more. I can't have all this heat on me. I can't be getting chased by the cops no more.
Yeah.
I can't be going out doing
'Cause
all
you
this
knew you
dumb
didn't
stuff.
like that.
It's like that's not who I was. It was like I was trying to find myself truly. You know, like I like life took me astray from who I truly was,
Yeah.
and I was fighting to find myself. And then even like after graduating and working for CFS, that was just like that turning point to be like, what kind of man do I want to be,
Right.
and how do I go about doing that?
Yeah.
Because like for me, like those questions, like how do I become the thing that I want to become, or how do I do the things that I want to do, aren't hard questions for me to answer, and doing them isn't the hard thing. The hard part for me in life is actually understanding how to be interpersonal with people at times, because like sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be like, dude, I'm not about a soul. I don't like people as much as I come across as though I do. Like I know how to put on a nice smile, but like a lot of people are just, I'm like, yo bro, why are you so dumb? Why are you so dumb? Why are you so blind? It's aggravating to come from the place I do and watch people be so oblivious to the world that they live in. Like, most Winnipeggers, in my opinion, should have a full understanding of this type of city they live in, and they don't.
And that's 100% true. You know, I think in this city, there's a lot of people who are completely oblivious to what else is going on, and I was one of those people, 100%. And I'm not even talking about, like, you know, we're not going to touch too much on this, but like the Black Lives Matter stuff. You know, like I work with a couple kids who are black, and I asked them, I said, when the whole Black Lives Matter blew up, you know, just being oblivious to a lot of it, still, I was like, what do you guys experience? And the stuff that they were telling me.
It's a whole nother world. There's different worlds outside your world, and like my thing now is to understand the worlds outside of my own, you know, because by bridging those gaps, that makes me a fuller and more round person at the end of the day, to be able to create better art, to be able to be more interpersonal. Because the reason I'm doing the things that I'm doing is not to get famous no more, is not to make money. It's to be able to reach out to the people who are experiencing the things that I'm experiencing, and to be like, yo, if I can do it, you can do it. There's hope for you. You're not a lost cause. You're not a lost case. You know, you don't need people to love you. Teach yourself to love you, because then the doors are open. Yeah.
I love that, man. So if you were to put it into context, or if you were to put it into one word, more or less, of what helped you change and grow into this newfound level of consciousness, awareness to the world around you, throughout your experience, what would that be? What would be the?
I got one word for you, bro, and a lot of people might not like this. God. Straight up.
Love it.
There's no way. There's no way. Like, I have to walk around with this attitude, because I get down on myself a lot. I always feel like I am failing in everything I'm doing, to be like, no, I'm already a success. Nobody is able to come out of the positive end of the things that I've been through, and be able to like give and try and do the things that I'm doing. You know, that's not me trying to be like, look at me, I'm nice. It's to be like, yo, I'm genuinely trying, and I'm trying to make the best for it. And I don't believe that I would have been able to come out and even approach the things that I'm approaching if I didn't have some sort of holiness, you know, helping me out. I had a very interpersonal experience with like Christ himself during that, like, which is the foundation of like my faith, but that's another story.
No, man, I love that. God is good.
Always.
God is good, brother.
All the time. God is good.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
So, building off of that, I appreciate you sharing that with us about your life. And I mean, that's real personal, real deep stuff, right? Not a lot of people know about that, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. So now, kind of ending things off and bringing it all around and wrapping things up. Change. How is one person going about change in a productive manner, in a way that makes sense for them, in a way that they can feel like what they're doing is good and of service to others, and feeling that same sense of what we do in bringing that life to other people, not just ourselves. What would you say would be one of the biggest things to focus on in that regard?
Damn, that's a good question. But I got the right answer. At least I think so. I don't know, like, a lot of the things I say kind of come off the top. So like, if you disagree with this, understand that a lot of the time when I say things on this line, and I just want to preface everything I say from this point forward, because I'm going to come up with some strong opinions, like, they're opinions I've cultivated through my own personal experience, and a lot of the wisdom I try and shed, I don't actually like account myself for. Again, God is good. I believe that I'm supposed to like kind of like, I don't think when I say that stuff, it just sort of comes out. So like, for anybody trying to change themselves, the first thing you need to do is you need to sit down and have an honest look at yourself in the mirror. No bias. You cannot be looking at yourself and going like, oh, well, you know, excuse to this, and well, excuse to this. If you're doing something and you're doing something that's shitty, bro, just own it. Like, because at the end of the day, we live in a sinful world. We live in a shitty ass world. If you're doing something shitty, you're not the first one. Everybody's doing something like that.
Absolutely.
And if that's something you're not going to kick, bro, just have that honesty with yourself, because if you can't do that, then like you're not going to get anywhere and change, because you're not even capable of being honest with yourself. You're not even capable of having that moment with yourself, and that's like crucial. Beyond that point, it's literally just having the determination to do something about it. for me, changing as a child was basically running blindly into like nothingness.
Yeah.
Starting to meditate and then self-reflect and find out what's going on within and who I am within was a big shift to teach me how to how to focus down on the things that need specific change. In order to make any difference, you got to understand Rome wasn't built in a day. It's a process of ticking away the individual things that need to happen, right? So let's say, for instance, you're suffering or struggling with let's say an addiction, right? Like something that you're struggling to get over. You need to just have that honesty with yourself as like, why the hell did you even start doing that in the first place? How did you find yourself in that point? Because that's probably the thing that's keeping you tied to that. So you need to find the thing that's not anchoring you. You need to find the thing that's actually withholding you, which is locking the doors for you. When you find that thing, it's a process of figuring out how to dismantle that, lapse in judgment or those bad habits. And it's finding that moment where that all comes apart, Once you find that moment, it's every single time hitting that moment is just choosing one option or the other. Yeah. I don't believe that anybody on this planet doesn't choose every single thing they do. To some degree, you do. 100%. I don't care what you say. Your arm doesn't move without those brainwaves firing in your head as a demand from self. You are not doing the things that you're doing out of like oopsie poopsies. I found myself here. You need to have the honesty to be like, I made consecutive choices to get here. Absolutely. If you're not thinking about your choices, that's probably why you feel like you don't know how you got there, because you don't think about the things you're doing. Start stopping and thinking about your actions before you do anything. Change is not only consistent, but it's a guarantee in life. It's the sooner I've learned to embrace, and not only embrace change, crave it and seek it out.
Love it.
Because the sooner things change, you're in a new environment, things are refreshed, revitalized, things are coming to you faster. The energy's different. If you're consistently chasing to be where you were before, like everybody's talking about like post-COVID, I just want things to be normal. Buddy, it's not about to be normal again. Homie, like things like COVID are going to be normal. Like COVID is the new normal. Yeah. Get used to it. Yeah. Because that's it. Because after COVID, there's going to be another one and another one and another one. Like scientists have been talking about these superbugs for a minute and a half. Guess what? They're here. What are you going to do about it? Change is not about how you can adjust things externally to suit your needs, because that's not going to happen. You can't change another thing. You can't change another person. You need to adjust your own attitude in order to, not only be comfortable in that environment, but thrive in that environment. Because if you're stuck in a past, the change that's happening in front of you is never, you're not relevant to it. You're not around for it. So like you're missing your opportunities because you're going, but before though. Yeah. Bro, there's no before. There's only, like Master Uguay said, there's only the now. Yesterday's history, tomorrow's is a mystery, today's a gift. Focus on the now. Focus on not yourself in a selfish way, but in a selfless way. How do I give? How do I change? Because you changing for people will make you a better person. And if you attract more bees and flies with honey, nobody's going to come to you if you're a sour little kraut, or like you got all these like left and right things that like undo you, like you are the biggest thing that is always getting in your way. Figure out how to fix yourself, because you're the only thing you can change. So if you're wanting like a big shift in life, look at yourself and figure out what you want to do different with yourself. And if you can't do that, buddy, change ain't for you, bro. And then like I don't know what you're going to do, but like stop being resistant to change, because change will always overpower you. You can hide in your bubble for as long as you like, but COVID proved that like, nah, son.
Last point, bro. God bless you. That was beautiful. I thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, bro.
I just knew that there was a reason why you are my first guest on the show, and that is exactly it.
Thank you.
I know that there's somebody watching. I know that there's somebody watching, not even when it comes out, but maybe a year from now, a year from when it comes out, who will listen to those words, who will internalize those. Yeah. And you will help them on a new path.
Hopefully, that's why I say those things, man. Like, what I'm saying is, like, universally, you got to figure out how to make it work for you, right? Like, you're not that special. Nobody's that special. We're all the same thing, right? But, like, there's a flavor, there's a vibe that you got to find to make your shit work for you, bro. Like, it's just a journey and it's a process. You can't be defeated every single time, you hit a stone wall when it comes to change, because, like, if you're hitting stone walls, you're going in the right direction, because it's easy to fuck your life up. It's hard to make it good.
Love it, bro. Love it. And with that, you guys, Again, thank you so much for watching. I, again, appreciate you so much, Luke, for coming on to the show and being
Absolutely.
the first guest of the show. So, again, guys, thank you so much. You can tune in wherever this uploads. I'm going to post a little bit of it on Instagram TV so you guys can watch a snippet of it. Also on YouTube, and we're going to try and get it up on iTunes and Spotify so you guys can listen to it whenever, wherever as well. Again, God bless you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great rest of your day.